The first thing we're going to do is to mention a little cultural thing to come in, and Åter och kärleken heter det. De vill läsa lite. Välkomna, vill du presentera er själv?
Hej, det här är ett reklaminslag kan man säga. Vi har ett seminarium imorgon i Stenhof-rummet här bredvid. Klockan 11. Jag heter Gunilla Thorgren och det här är Petra Brylander. Jag var med en gång i tiden och drog igång grupp 8. Det är över 40 år sedan nu och det gläder mig att se alla efterföljare som vimlar här idag och under de här dagarna i Malmö på mässan kring de feministiska frågorna. Jag har jobbat med många olika saker, men sen jag blev pensionär så är jag författare på heltid. Och jag har skrivit en bok, en biografi över en kvinna som jag anser är 1900-talets stora skandinaviska feminist, nämligen Elise Ottesen-Jensen. Och hon skulle jubla om hon såg alla seminarier här och kring de sexualpolitiska frågorna i Skandinavien. För hon har varit först, kan man säga, i nästan alla sammanhang när det gäller att driva kvinnors rätt att kontrollera sin egen kropp. Rätten till fri abort, rätten till preventivmedel, rätten för homosexuella att leva i sin kärlek. Och hon ägnade, kan man säga, offrade hela sitt liv för detta. Och hon startade faktiskt också, inte bara RFSU i Sverige, utan en stor internationell organisation som heter IPPF. Skriv upp det, IPPF, och gå in och titta på deras hemsida. De servar idag 50 miljoner kvinnor över hela världen när det handlar om de reproduktiva rättigheterna. Jag har också skrivit en pjäs som också heter Ottar och kärleken och som Malmö stadsteater kommer att sätta upp premiär den 20 september i år. Och det kommer också vara en del evenemang kring pjäsen. Det gläder mig mycket, för jag tycker att det är viktigt med historien. Petra, jag vet inte om du vill säga något, men Ottar gjorde ju också, hon var inte bara aktiv i de sexualpolitiska frågorna, utan i fredsfrågorna, i kvinnors rätt till arbete, alltså en rad olika, säg den feministiska fråga som hon inte var engagerad i. Men hon gjorde faktiskt också någonting annat. Hon medverkade till att Sverige fick, kan man säga, sin första stora kvinnliga arbetarförfattare, nämligen Moa Martinsson. De lärde känna varann och det var Ottar som uppmuntrade Moa att skriva. På den tiden de möttes hette Moa Helga Johansson. Och Petra ska läsa en kort dialog mellan de två första gången de träffades, som inte var ett så väldigt lyckat möte.
Jag tänkte att jag tar ingen mick, för jag är så bra med. Jag är skådespelare och teaterchef på Malmö stadsteater. Så jag har då helt enkelt makten att bestämma att vi ska sätta upp Gunillas pjäs som Ottar, och det är jätteroligt. Det är det roligaste med att vara chef. Okej. Ännu tydligare. Okej. Och jag kan inte isländska. Jag kan bara säga så. Ja, jag ska prata jättetydligt. Jag ska försöka. Det är svårt att framföra teater så här mitt i allt, men jag ska i alla fall försöka att läsa den här scenen så ni får en känsla av vad det är som Gunilla berättar om i sin pjäs. Helga, då Moa, kommer in till Elise som sitter i sitt arbetsrum på Arbetarens redaktion på 20-talet.
Elise hade fått en egen sida som hette, vad tror ni, Kvinnan och hemmet.
Thank you so much. Detta är ju seminarium B. Vi hade seminarium A igår. Hur många av er var på seminarium A igår? Ja, jag känner igen det. Nej. Och idén är ju den att man på seminarium A gör en sorts analys av situationen, omsorg och välfärdssamhälle är vårt ämne. Och sen ska man på seminarium B hitta vilka krav man ska ställa när man har gjort analysen. Och igår där pratade vi ganska mycket om olika saker. Först så såg jag en film. Den vet jag att Karin såg också och hon vill komma lite tillbaka till den i sitt inslag. Men vi såg en film från ett hem där en gammal man skulle ut av sängen och sköterskan kommer och får det hem och han vill inte. Han är väldigt våldsam. Han skriker piss off, skrik med dig. Jag vill inte se dig, gå bort och sådär. Och när hon tar bort täppet, då ser hon ju att han har skitit alldeles ner sig. Och så ser man i filmen hur hon försöker hantera det där. Hon får skit på ansiktet, går ut att tvätta så hon skakar över hela kroppen och sådär. Det var en väldigt fantastisk film tycker jag. Det var bara 7-8 minuter. Men man fick ju inte i den filmen prata mycket om känslor. Alltså man kan räkna hur många minuter tar det att tvätta det och hur många minuter tar det att göra frukost och sådär. Men man kan inte räkna på hur många minuter det tar att arbeta med känslor. Det var en sak vi pratade om. Något annat var, och det var lite förlängelse av det, att New Public Management som har varit den stora ideologin inom välfärdssamhället och speciellt omsorg. Flera sa, ja men den är ju på väg ut. New Public Management, det är inte modernt mer. Men det var ingen som kunde säga vad kommer vi att ha istället? Ska vi ha roboter? Är det teknologin som ska rätta oss? Eller ska vi ha mer privat som man kan köpa extra och sådär? Det är en annan diskussion som jag tycker är väldigt viktig att ha med sig. Och i Sverige har man ju haft väldigt mycket gått från offentlig till privat. Så jag ska bara visa en liten affisch som vi har gjort i Danmark. Som heter golvstätningens samhällsekonomi. Om ni tittar på det första bilden så kan man se om det är en privat firma som gör den där stätningen. Då har vi växt i samhället. Det är väldigt bra. Om det är kommunen som städar golvet, då har vi offentliga utgifter. Det är väldigt dåligt. Och om ingen som kommer, då är det dottern som städar golvet för den gamla mamma. Och det finns inte i samhällsekonomin. Det är borta. Och det stannar i familjen. Och det är alldeles gratis. Och jag tror det är väldigt nödvändigt att vi börjar tänka ekonomi på något annat vis. Varför är växt så bra? Varför är en offentlig utgift? Varför är det dåligt? Och sådär. Och ni får ta så många som ni vill ha när ni går. Men det var mitt upplägg till diskussionen här. Ja. Så har ni... Ja, du startar, Lena. Ja.
Well, I changed to English because I had in the first place to think it in some other language, my mother language, so I'm not belonging to the small Swedish-speaking minority, but speak Finnish normally. And so, but I was also in a discussion in med svenska vänsterpartiet och så jag höll där på svenska och nu flyttar jag tillbaka till engelska. Man måste göra någonting. So I've given an address, Trends in the Public and Private Care. I knew that I should actually talk more about what to do next, but as a social scientist I had difficulties in getting to that part. So I first kind of try to say how I see the new public management in care in Finland at the moment, and then give some ideas of what to do, though I must confess that I'm not that good in that. I don't believe that we are seeing the end of new public management. Actually, I see that it's going kind of deeper. One of critical historians in Finland has said that the reason why the privatization is going so heavily in the public sector is that when talking about things and material, so the market is so full of things that now also the money has to get winced also from the public sector. But that was just one reason. The reason why I don't believe that it's kind of over the neoliberalism. Okay. My background is that I am besides doing research and teaching social workers, I have also been within politics for some years. So this is how I get kind of information through my own studies, through my students and through politics. Well, I think that there are two mega trends in neoliberalism or new public management. And the one I call marketization or commodification. They go together. Just now, for example, I have been reading a coming new law in Finland, which is på svenska det socialvårdlagen. I don't know in the English word, but anyhow, that is a law which is very heavily kind of making small tasks or what I call commodification. The idea is to first change the ideas of care to something else so that they can be put to the market. Well, the other mega trend is shift from institutional care to home care. And these both trends affect the life of women as caregivers and also as care recipients. What I mean with commodification, this commodification is, as all Marxists know, that's an expression of Marx. Well, the commodification, to my understanding, means that care work, which used to include a lot of different tasks, is divided to many. Home help for the elderly used to include socializing with the person, cleaning, shopping, doing meals, washing clothes, etc. Many kinds of tasks. And it was when we kind of, I was in a big group of researchers in the 80s when we thought about what is care. So we were talking about process, about motivation, about feelings also that were mentioned today. But nowadays these kind of things are not taken into account. They are just shopping, doing meals and so on. And socializing is not a commodity. What it means when thinking about the person who gets be it private or public services, it means that there is a network of people coming and going, doing this and doing that. And for example, if we talk about old people with a little dementia or Alzheimer's, so they don't even know the name who is coming, and what she's doing and where she comes from. So there is different organizations, different people and so on. Smaller and smaller products. And instead of putting the effort to caregiving, it's used in commodification. This means, for example, when I talk about social work, that there is an ethical and moral stress of carers who have to, instead of caring, instead of doing something for the people they are supposed to help, so they think that how can they put this task into a product? How long does it take? And if you put it to the market in sense that if you work for a community and municipality, and if you are in a position where you have to give it to some private entrepreneurs, you have to think about what kind of conditions you say that this and that product has to actually have inside, what it can cost and so on. So at the same time as we talk that there is too little carers, there is scarcity or purity in caring, there is this a lot of tasks that has nothing to do with caring, and these are the things that you do. You don't do things that you should do when caring. So that is what I mean with ethical or moral stress of carers. And what is the role of mothers, daughters, or social workers? They are the ones who take care of the network of different providers and so on. So this is how their work is. Someone has to take responsibility of it all, and it is, well, yes. So there, and besides taking care of the network of carers, the relatives take also care of those people who no one else makes. So, and at the same time as the tasks get lower, get smaller and smaller, the prices get higher, as there are many different producers and everyone has their price. So instead of having home help for a whole day, you have different tasks and everybody puts a different price for it. So there is plenty of poor people, poor women especially, who don't have the money to do. Besides the thing that private sector providers are more expensive, also the municipality or the public is taking the services of public are also getting higher. The prices of public services get higher. So there is, for example, these kinds of things come from the commodification. So the inequality is put into a phrase: the people whose needs are most urgent are not getting them, or the people whose needs are most urgent get the least. And this, to my understanding, is a process of inequality. And unnecessary to say that women are the more unequal. Then I take the other mega trend, the shift from institutional care into home care. Closing down institutions for mentally ill, closing down institutions for children in custody, closing down institutions for old people. Women who used to get paid work at the institutions and now take care at home without pay or without a very low pay. So this is the closing down of the institutions means also so kind of new situation for paid work. But then I wanted to take one more question up. I didn't find it from the papers or the paper that was given. The crisis of care is global, and this means that nurses and doctors and other carers from poor countries, Philippines, come to Finland or Sweden to take care of Finnish patients and leave their own children and parents without care. Immigrant carers are an important question of solidarity. There is an army of carers going around, and this is not only a question people coming from Asia to Europe, but also there is this kind of movement in Asia where poor people get, for example, for Taiwan or so on. So this is a kind of global question, and this should be actually added to the paper that we are taking today. Yeah. Well, how to respond? I said I'm very bad at this, but during the last few years I have been within Finland in a movement thinking about basic income, and that is one thing. I used to not like basic income before. I thought it is a trap for women because they are the ones who stay with the basic income at home. But on the other hand, when looking at the working conditions of caring people at the moment, so I'm not sure what to think about it. So it might be one thing. For those who don't know what basic income is, it's the idea that everybody should get, for example, 500 or 850 euros. And then the ones who go to work and get actually more money, they should be taxed so that is taken away. But the idea in basic income is that people get it for free, so they are not entitled to do, for example, care work or something like that. And it kind of, the idea in basic income is that everybody decides what to do. So some people might take care of their relatives, some don't. And that cannot be kind of, it's not a payment for care, but it's as it is basic income, and it used to be called also citizens payment or something like that. Okay. One of the ideas is that those siblings that take care of old parents should inherit more. That is also one. I have heard that in some societies this already goes on, so that inheritance is not the same for all siblings. In Finland, all get the same. I don't know if this could bring more men in caregiving or not. Well, in Finland, we have tried quotas. For example, we tried quotas, how to get more men in caregiving. This is now what I'm trying to answer. We had quotas for male students at universities, at least in social work and teaching. Well, it led for the fact that males got all the job of the bosses, and thus we kind of finished with the quotas. But nowadays, we anyhow have bosses, and they are male anyhow, but without the professional education. This is what new public management has got. The managers are economists, jurists, they manage at distance with the help of consultants, evaluators, and so on. So that didn't help the quotas, I don't know. We have in Finnish saying that suden suusta karhun kitaan, from mouth of wolf to gape of bear. The social or caregiving in public sector is more and more combined with the health sector in Finland also. If social sector care is not ruled by economists and jurists, consultants and evaluators, it's ruled by medical doctors. And care is turned into tasks like meals and cleaning. Old people are treated as ill, as if they were ill, instead of that they are fragile and old. So instead of socializing with old people, they get pills. So that is the situation at the moment. So what to do? I don't have the slightest idea, but I know this. We need to counteract these trends. Otherwise, well, we are in the gape of the bear.
Some new discussions here. I can tell you tomorrow, I think, that the Danish au pair organization in Denmark has a workshop about au pairs in Denmark. And I don't know if it's a discussion in Sweden, but it's a big discussion in Denmark that a lot of Philippine au pairs, who's not au pairs at all, who's working, are there. In the rich areas in Copenhagen, north of Copenhagen, some of the children don't speak very good at Danish anymore because they're always together with the Philippine caretakers. And the big problem here is, which we can discuss after, is that on one hand, you should treat those who are there good because they're there now. But how could you say that this should go on? So the trade unions says that au pairs, I mean, this is not really, this is underpaid work. It's not au pair. And those who are there, of course, want to stay. So that's a discussion we might take after this. But now I would ask Karen to continue.
Yes, thank you. I'm a scientist, or I work a teacher at the university in Roskilde in Denmark. I'm also a sociologist and have been doing feminist studies for, well, over 30 years now. But in this context, I've always also been a patient to home help, and that have given me a totally new perspective of home help. And I will talk about home help in this sense. In Denmark, we had strikes in the late in 2006 to 2008 between nurses and home helpers and other women doing social work, especially for the elderly. And one of the parola of these strikes were that they wanted more warm hands, and that they wanted also that warm hands got more money, higher salary. In Denmark, as I noticed yesterday, that it's the same in Sweden, but we have, for the last 40 years, we have had a strategy that means that old people are supposed to want to stay as long as possible in their own homes. And this means today, well, one of the speakers yesterday expressed it like that a lot of women were put into jail in their own home because often they were not able to walk the stairs and get out into the street or go to shops or anything. So that's the other side of it, but I think it's very difficult. I was myself a municipal councillor in my municipality in Denmark when this strategy started, and I was so it was so contradictory for me because I saw that at that time we had small nursery homes where maybe 8 persons were in the nursing homes. It was often in old bourgeois villas, and they actually had a nice time, I think. But what happened was social democrats, they wanted either big hospital-like nursery homes or to keep people as long as possible in their own home. And that became the strategy, and that's the strategy for the whole of Denmark now, probably because it's supposed to be the cheapest way to do it. But on the other hand, it's also home help for the elderly in Denmark is one of the largest points in our national budget. So in that sense, you can say there are lots and lots of resources for home help in Denmark, and that should be a good point of departure, because maybe it's used wrong, but the resources are there. You don't have to make people pay more taxes. You only have to prioritize in another way in home help. And you can say here that we have had the whole experiment, as Helle Dahl said yesterday, the whole experiment of new public management that has been marketized in Denmark too for the last 20 years or so. But as Helle said yesterday, this hasn't been a success. Everybody can see that it hasn't been able to produce more quality and more quantity to at least to home help. So we have to rethink these strategies, and those in government must accept that this strategy is not a strategy that works, at least when we talk about care. I think, and I'm also now inspired by the French sociologist Boltanski. And Boltanski, he is the successor of Bourdieu. A lot of social workers read Bourdieu and read a lot about power in the care work, and that's why we always think about care work in the concept of power. And what Boltanski, and now I also try to say, is that we have to accept that people are competent in their own life. We have to accept that people, when, for instance, old people criticize the home help, they do it in a way that we have to accept. That there's lots of criticism in Denmark towards home help, even if we use so much money on it. And why is the criticism? Well, they are not given what they want to. They are given what the municipalities think they should have. And that means, for instance, in Denmark, a lot of old men and women sit the whole morning waiting for the home helper to come to put these support stockings on them. And everybody say, why do they all suddenly have to have support stockings? Well, that's just become one of the routines. And this means that the old people are kept to this kind of prison it is to be wearing these stockings all the time. But I think that's hvor kommer de fra med? Der er nogen taget den der. Ja. Jeg tror jeg kom for langt. Yeah. What I think we should be realizing is that giving the relationship between a home helper and the client or the patient is a one-to-one relationship. It's a relationship between two competent persons who are competent in each their area. And the problem is, or the question is, how actually you care for a person who is old but also competent in his or her own life. And that is a lot about managing feelings. I think many of the scholars here, they read Ali Hochschild's book called Managing Feelings. And a lot of women's work is actually to manage feelings. And I think we should acknowledge that to give home help is not just a simple task. It is actually to be able to manage feelings. But it's also a way to show love for your neighbor. And love is one of the most difficult thing here, because when help is given or care is given by a daughter or a grandchild or so on, we expect that there is a love dimension into this. That there is you do it because of the love for your mother, but if there's no kind of love in home help, it is becoming totally sterile and technical. And I think we have to accept that we need to work with a kind of understanding of love. Earlier on, we talked about the religious calling for people, for nurses to care for people in the name of God and Jesus. And now we don't believe in this anymore. Now we believe in wage work. And the problem with wage work is that there are not this kind of consideration for your patient in that. And I think we have to refine this kind of a gap that is called by some of the French philosophers a gap as a kind of the way that a welfare system is kept together to the love of the other persons, the love between people in a society that is able to stick together. In feminist studies, we talk these years about the affective turn, and I think it's interesting to use this concept to talk also about what should happen in home help or in care work, because a lot of ways in which we have to cooperate with others in society today is actually to be able to manage feelings. If you are the boss, you have to manage in some ways the feelings of your of the persons engaged in your company. And we also talk about coaching. Everybody has coaching these years, and this is a way to both to support one's own autonomy in life, but also to make you more capable of coping with your life situation and bringing you some kind of development in life. And I think that can be a good thing to think of. Why are old people or people cared for not allowed to have something like coaching? Shouldn't we call home help a kind of coaching? I know coaching is somewhat a cliche, but on the other hand, it's interesting to think of what do we put into the phrase coaching if in contradiction or in relation to the word to the word home help, because I think it's much more nearer to each, or should be much more nearer to each other than it actually is. So, for me, to be a professional as a home helper, this is more. It implies that you have to be able to care for both the autonomy of another person and for the person's personal integrity. And I'll try to develop it a little more. I'm getting old myself, and my peers are getting old too, and I realize some of the changing that happens to you when you get old and often also sick. A lot of people get angry, very angry. As we saw the man in the film yesterday, he was so angry. And he was angry because he had to live with this humiliation that he was in bed and having shit all over himself and so on, and this young nice woman came in and just took off his sheets and lay him bare with all his shit. It was it's very, very humiliating, and of course it makes people angry. But you also, I myself, I walk very slowly now because of some back problems, and it's such a humiliation, and you get so angry. So you have to accept that to manage feelings is not just to manage good feelings, it's also to manage bad feelings. And one of the bad feelings is anger. And when you deal with older people, you have to find ways to deal with this kind of anger. Another thing that we have to deal with is shame. That actually it's very shameful to become old, because for instance, a lot of people. I remember my old mother when she got old. When somebody of her friends came and rang her door, she wouldn't open for them because they shouldn't see how she looked now, and also how her home looked now. And it's but it is shame, because you don't want you realize yourself that it smells of shit and urine, and you don't want to be identified with this smell, although it comes from yourself. Then we know it, all of us. But when you get old, you get so dependent on others to deal with this, and it is very shameful. So that's also one of the things that we have to acknowledge, that this shame is there, the anger, the shame is there. And the next thing I forgot to translate into English. In Denmark it's called, or Danish it's called, blufærdighedskrænkelse. I don't know what it's called in English, but it means, and I have an example from my own situation. When the day after I came home from hospital after a back operation, there was at 9 o'clock in the evening, it rang on my door. And when I opened, there was a young man in a camouflage dress standing outside telling me that he came to put me to bed. And I just said, what? I don't go to bed before midnight, and I didn't want him to undress me and to help me to the toilet and to put me to bed. It was like, to me, it was very stepping over my personal lines. And we have to accept that it's, for old people, they have to let it happen. And that's also a question of, because one of the things that are in this document is that we should have more men into care work. And I certainly think that it would be a very, very good idea to have more men into care work. But there is also this question of that it can sometimes be sexualized if the person of the other sex is standing outside your door, and you might see it as some kind of sexual harassment or stepping over your lines. And especially if you are a old woman of 90 and there was a big broad man standing at her door in her private home and telling her that she should be put into bed by him. And I think it's difficult to just to say, well, they have to accept that this is what equality is about, because it's also, well, a sexualized situation. Okay. I will start with talking a bit about the strategies, and I'm the same as you. Being a university person, it's very difficult to talk about political strategy. But I think that it's important thing that to care for old people is to care for their autonomy. And in that sense, it can be a very, very good idea with some of the new technological equipment that you can get. For instance, if you could get a Japanese toilet in your own apartment, it's much more easy to wash yourself after you have been on the toilet, and that could be a very nice thing for a lot of people. It can also be a nice thing to have vacuum cleaners, robots, and other things, because it helps you keep your own autonomy, and you feel much more in command of the situation, rather when there's somebody else telling you to do so. And I think also that we have to take a point of departure in the criticism of the old people. In Denmark, this criticism had led to a stupid discussion of whether an old person should be allowed one bath a week, one bath a day, one bath every second week. And it's really a stupid way of quantifying the needs and also the quest that old people have, because they want their autonomy, and some people, they like to be able to take a bath every day or to take a shower every day, and then it's more important to make equipment so that they can take it themselves, or as much they can for themselves, rather that they be dependent on somebody else. And I also think we should think in the way of coaching, that there are so many feelings to deal with when you get old. You know, we give crisis management for people who have been who have seen a bank robbery. But people getting old, they are in their final life crisis, and that can be very, very difficult. So there is a lot of use for lots of therapy or coaching for the old people. And then I also think we should try to find the resources of love in society. And this is, in some way, it seems rather ridiculous or rather like an utopia. But in a welfare society, we actually rely on that we have some kind of love for the others, and that caring for others means also to be able to show this kind of love. So, I also want to point at that to be a professional is a very, very complex thing in care work, but it can also be to wash the floor. This is a very caring thing to do if an old person is going to have a family coming in or friends coming in, to clean their floor so they shouldn't feel the shame of showing people their dirty homes. And I have seen that for my mother, that she was so ashamed of that they didn't vacuum clean under her bed, they didn't took the dust out of her furniture and so on. It's very shameful, and then these simple things is also a way of caring professionally. Yeah, so I just want to say that professionalism in care work is much more than just having your heart at the right place. You took that phrase yesterday. I saw on television an advertisement for a private home helper company, and the only thing they showed a very young and pretty woman in the advertisement, and then it said, you just have to have your heart at the right spot, the right place. And this is not at all right. That having, of course, that is what I ask for on one hand, but this is a very much more complicated matter than just having a heart on the right place.
This is really tough, because I thought we should have some solutions, and now we're getting it more and more complicated. But maybe we are on the right way anyway, because can you pay for feelings? Can you make professional feelings? Does that exist? I mean, that's the question you actually ask, Karen. Could you say that you're paid on one hand, but the other hand, you should love people? But if you love people, then you should not be paid, or what? It's not quite simple, this question. So I don't know what you're going to put in the in the conclusions. But anyway, I think maybe Barbara, could you answer all the questions?
Of course. Now, both these presentations are criticizing the system we have now. It's not enough, it's not right quality, and so on. And the system is the Nordic welfare state, or the Nordic model. Lisa mentioned about the change of the Nordic model through neoliberalism and the new public management. And I think it's very healthy to think, what was the idea with the Nordic model? The idea was that the rights, our social and other welfare rights, should be universal. Everybody living in a welfare state should have these rights, independent on where you live, if you are a man or a woman, if you are your ethnic background and other variables. That's very unique. The other thing was that it was developed through a growing public sector, which was financed through taxation. It was a solidary financiation of the welfare services. And of course, the ones who had higher salaries, they should pay more through a progressive scale. It was also possible to politically control the welfare. I just come from another discussion about feministic economy and the welfare state, and there were different opinions if you can return to the old model. Of course you can. It's a political decision. It's not an economic. We don't have to use these multinational companies. And women should, I think, be very attentive in this matter, because the oligarchs, they are just men, almost. There are few women. So today we can't, through female or other good politicians in the local society, we can't control the welfare services nor the quantity, quality, just indirectly, and that's not enough in a democracy. Another alternative, maybe in the long run, is the sustainable society. And I think that even more and more men are aware of the fact that we cannot have a society like the one we have now. It's using too much natural resources. It's also using human resources very much, because there is a labor market where people coming in from different parts of the world, and they are cheap labor in the market. So to have a sustainable society means also to have a socially sustainable society. And care work could be a very important part of this society and the market. When we think of the societies and the economy today, we have this BNP, which is the most important criteria on growth. But we could add, of of course, other criteria, like Karen was in. Have we a loving society and happy society? Are people content? Are we living in harmony with us, with the nature? All the things that are important for people today, and that young people are threatened, and also we, but they feel that they are threatened. Some young people say that we have no future. They don't feel like that, and that's the most terrible thing that could happen if there is no hope among young people. So a sustainable society with other criteria that we can measure on how our society should develop. Another thing is that somebody mentioned it, maybe it was Lisa, that when we think of the BNP, homework is not included. And it is very valuable. We could have a huge growth in our economy immediately when we could include that in the way we measure the growth in society. I think it's about 40%. In Norway, they try to do this, and so it's quite possible. It's just a thing about values. And I know from Åland, where I come, I try to get this into the statistics, and they say, it's so difficult, and it's so much problems. And I say, it's no problem. Well, we will try next year, and that's the way. So in order to come back to what was the meaning of the Nordic model, I think we have to have new ways of measuring how growth is defined in society. And I think it is possible, if we want to have the Nordic model back in the way we should. Because market liberalism, which this new management is a part of, has meant that a lot of taxation money has been taken away from the state. And this is a great threat to the financing of the welfare state in the future. And I don't know if I might have a personal remark. In my surroundings, I don't see that people are so eager to consume a lot of things anymore. There is like a satisfaction. They go to second-hand shops. Of course, people buy new cars and all that, but there seems to be a yearning for something else. And that is probably what you are talking about, Karen, to have another society where feelings are important, and how we can develop a more loving society. And where I come from, it's a micro-society. It's, I think, much more easier, because we also have a far-reaching autonomy, and our parliament has decided that we should be sustainable 2051. Fortunately, I will not be able to be there the day it happens, but still it's a very important decision. And all people, even the rich people, they are afraid what will happen with the globe, with all the climate threats and so on. So somehow everything seems to be there. If we just had the right people on the right places to make the right decisions. And women have to be much tougher as a group to promote each other, and to tell the world how important work most women are doing. And finally, I think the Japanese toilets was a very good idea because it's not just that you are clean when you get up, but you also can hear the most beautiful opera music if you are interested in that. So thank you very much.
So at last there'll be a few minutes for questions, but I'll just make a short summary. That's some of the things we have come up here in the discussion. There's one discussion which is very, very huge, and so we can have it, but I think it might be very good to have in your backhand. That was the question about basic income. Could we rechange the whole society by having a basic income? We have had a big discussion in Denmark from some years ago. Now it's, in a way, fading out a lot. But is basic income, is that a feminist issue, question? Or is it back to the kitchens? That was one thing. The other things was this kind of privatization. Not only those the one who goes from public to private, but also the other way of privatization, the au pairs. That's another way of privatization. And the privatization of staying at home or inclusion. We had a big discussion in Denmark now that people, the children which have a kind of illness, but not very mental illness, but not very very big, are now coming back to the schools because it should be good for the schools and be good for them, but it's cheaper as well. So where are the borders? The next thing is that how do we have love and feelings and payment together? How does that work? And about the and then we have another kind of privatization, the unpaid work, the family taking care. Is that good? Is it good in some ways? But if it's to save money, is it good then? And is this something you should do for love or because you have to, because nobody else does it? So that's, I mean, we have a lot of tough questions here, and as you said, women should be tough, but the questions are tough as well. And so and how could we rechange the way of looking at the public the economy, so we could count all this work which is done for no paying? So that might be some of the questions. There are some pieces of papers there. So if you don't if you have other suggestions, you can write them down and leave them here when you leave this seminar. But would anybody like to put some questions? Yes, you.
My name is Berit Aas, and a social scientist from Norway and a feminist activist. I just want to ask this wonderful board, it was such a enjoyment really to listen to you all, and you had such different kinds of point of departures. I think I have two questions. The one is that many years ago, it was an American woman called Charlotte Perkinson Gilman. She introduced home economics, which still is a very important issue in American universities. In my home, we had a kind of a version of that, because we trained young women mostly, very few men, to really take a stand on what they would learn. For instance, go into different kinds of families in different stages, and then learn the total kind of budgeting, or what kind of food. And I thought, and what do you think about that? If now all these soldiers are too many, I mean youngsters, They don't go into military, all of them. But couldn't it be a kind of a social service that made it very kind of professional to then have an education for young people, really to take their kind of masters by either going into families with lots of kids, older families, lots of families that thought needed different kinds of care and services, and really make them competent in understanding exactly how this kind of work would have to be done for different kind of needed families. Also a social service that all youngsters would have to take, and they could choose if they would have older people's families or they would have people with handicaps. All these are now divided up, as one of you said, in small bits. But to have this kind of totality of really understanding families in different kind of phases, that's my one question to you. Could that be a solution? And then I have an information, and that was just after the Second World War. We had in the Norwegian state budget, we had calculated how much of value the women who was doing the food making during the war was worth. This isn't very well known, but the leader of the Statistical Bureau in Norway, they said, and that was men, that if women hadn't kept the Norwegian people alive by picking berries, having a pig in the garage. We had all of our pigs was named by kings of Denmark. I'm sorry, but we had very good difficulties whenever we had to slaughter, and it was a kind of a bad thing to have the Danish men, the Danish friends. But and we had rabbits on the veranda, and hens, some places in the. So you know, it was right for those leaders of the Statistical Bureau to say, this work has a value. And we have seen some of this afterwards, like salary for housework, and it's a series of movements around the world. But it is possible by this, what you call them, time budget scales, time budget systems, which most statistical bureaus use now to really find out what kind of value would we give to making a meal, to wash all the clothes, to do the whole kind of house cleaning. And this Marilyn Monroe, not Marilyn Monroe, but Marilyn Waring, the New Zealand economist, conservative, wonderful woman who has been writing all this book, Counting for Nothing, or If Women Counted. It's those two women, Charlotte Perkinson Gilman, who wrote her book in 1896, and it competed with Das Kapital. It was one of the most popular books in America. And she writes in the beginning, if a farmer buys a horse, he earns more money because the horse is a factor in the production. But if a man marries, he earns more money, but the wife is not a factor in the production. So this is my two questions. Could we have a social service thing that was very professional and gave some kind of points in the future for young people? And the second one is, why don't we just say, now we are at the stage that we want to have a value put on exactly the unpaid caring work and housework in each family. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Sonja. I'm from the Federation of Municipal and State Employees in Iceland. our members are 70% women. So I was really interested to hear more about the point about, it was in Finland, right? You said the quota on the staff in welfare and teaching. Lena talked about, yes. I was wondering because you said that the men, when they started to attain that jobs, they went to the higher positions. Was there any initiative on like empowering women to take the higher positions? Or is there anything in the education system? Like what work will you choose in the education system? Thank you.
Ja, frågan är hur, eller Anders Andersson heter jag. Jag är här som fritidspolitiker från Malmö då, jag är vänsterpartist. Men jag jobbar också som undersköterska i hemtjänsten här i stan. Jag undrar vad ni tycker om mina idéer. Jag tror att lösningen är, när det gäller att få in män och få en bra vård, att man höjer statusen på yrket. Höjda löner. Man måste vara beredd att betala för detta. Men när det gäller att få bättre kvalitet, och du tog upp det här med kärlek och så tror jag att en stor brist i dagens vård är bristen på kontinuitet. Att det är för många som kommer till vårdtagarna och utför vården. Och det bästa är om det är så få som möjligt. För är det få människor som går till en person, så bygger man ju upp en relation. Och då kommer den här kärleken automatiskt, skulle jag säga. Så att det är liksom en av de viktigaste grejerna vi har att sätta upp som mål. Men det verkar inte som så många har förstått. Så jag tror man måste se på vårdarbetet som ett relationsarbete mycket mer än vad man gör idag. Ja. Är det lösningen? Vad tror ni?
Är det någon som vill kommentera? Ja.
Ja, tack. Jag ville bara kommentera det här med löner. Det är alldeles klart att när kvinnor gifter sig och får barn så minskar deras löner och männens löner ökar. Det är som oantastligt att kvinnor får betala för att de skaffar sig barn och männen får betalt för att de gifter sig och får barn. Och det enda lösningen på det är sån här föräldraledighet som delas lika. Men inte bara det, utan att den finansieras lika av mannens och hustruns eller mammans arbetsgivare. Då blir det annorlunda. För att så länge som kvinnor blir andrahands arbetskraft när de får barn, så kommer man inte över den där tröskeln. Det bara blir så. Och det är liksom en så enkel sak. Men problemet är att många kvinnor ofta säger att jag prioriterar barn och familj nu. Alltså, det är som inte ett politiskt utan det är ett privat ställningstagande som jag har respekt för. Men det betyder att man permanentar situationen. Man borde kräva både och, så att säga. Sen det här med obetalt arbete, så det är alldeles klart att det måste in i den här statistiken. För det vet vi också som har varit i kvinnorörelsen, att det enda som biter, det är statistisk fakta. Det är ingenting annat biter. Och då är det ju ännu mer förvånande att det ska ta så hemskt länge. Och jag tycker att det är en av de här två frågorna som jag har nämnt. Det är viktigt för mig att de på något vis kommer med i den här slutresolutionen. Sen en generell sak om kvinnor och ekonomi, så alltså, det finns inte just kvinnliga finansministrar. Det finns inte kvinnor i bolagsstyrelser. Det finns inte kvinnor på toppen i näringslivsorganisationer eller ekonomiska organisationer överhuvudtaget. Och en sak som jag har reflekterat över som vuxen, det är att Jag kommer inte ihåg att jag med mina väninnor skulle ha diskuterat ekonomi. Alltså vi pratar relationer så det med uppåt halsen till höra om allas bekymmer och tillkortakommanden i olika sammanhang. Att kvinnor har aldrig haft tillgång till de ekonomiska resurserna, varken till mark, kapital, aktiebörsen eller någonting. Vi är liksom vi är alienerade från den ekonomiska makten, och den måste vi ha om vi ska kunna alltså upphöja omsorgsarbete och allt annat som vi gör till en politisk nivå. Och kvinnliga finansministrar tror jag är bra, för är man statsminister så då måste man ta hela tiden i beaktande vad alla andra ministrar vill. Du får aldrig driva din fråga själv, men en finansminister har all makt, så den ska man lobba mot. Och de kan kanske införa gender budgeting och allt det som vi behöver för att synliggöra kvinnors ekonomiska liv och resultat.
Ja, då vi ska sluta precis, men den där klockan är lite framme, så vi har faktiskt 1,5 minut. Och Karin har frågat om får säga någonting.
Well, I think that most of us have a tendency to overestimate the crisis of the Nordic welfare state. I think that actually there is a lot of good possibilities still in the Nordic welfare state, and I don't think that we actually have to change it that much. I think that that what happened in Denmark is actually we haven't got very many of these welfare oligarchs into our welfare system because when this privatization wave hit us, the unions were actually able to form the demands and the qualifications of home helpers in a way that they couldn't actually make money on making it private. So it's still primarily handed out by the municipality. And I also think that we have in Denmark what we call ældreråd, old councils for the elderly, and we should use them. Today it's used by at least in my municipality the old mayor, who is the head of this council. But actually, some of us old feminists, we should try to be more effective in this kind of councils for the elderly and in order to work together with the professional unions to be able to better this kind of care work. And I think we have a possibility of doing so actually, because there is some healthy things in our welfare state that just can't be broken down that easily. For instance, also the au pairs, the Filipino au pairs that has been talked so much about the last years. We actually have very few Filipino au pairs in Denmark, but they are talked a lot about. There in all there are 1,700 Philippine au pairs, and actually they don't care for very many Danish children. So it's not a general tendency. It's actually a general tendency that people think that their children should be cared for by professionals. So they want to send them to kindergarten and take care of themselves in their spare time. And I think that's healthy, and I think that is going in the other direction than new public management. And I think there's something to build on.
I think it was a very interesting discussion. Thank you for the panel, and I hope you will like the conclusion we will hope to get out of it. And thank you for a little but very engaged audience. And take a poster over there about private public expenses and gratis arbete.